We had my first ever college football show. This was like 4 years ago now that we first got on YouTube, and it took us like 3 or 4 times, and so it was nice. We were able to make the joke. It was for week 0. We were like, hey, we're in week 0 too, like working out the kinks. That's why you scheduled the cupcake in week 0. You know,
Hell yes.
You might
We
have
got
to start
Kennesaw
up
State.
yeah, exactly. You might have to start up a few times. I think that 14-5 game was beautiful. We were heavy on the under, and that was just the sexiest thing I've seen in a long time. 14-5. That was a thing of beauty.
I see us now
Yep.
on the stream. I do look equally red as in prior weeks.
Less red.
Marginally less red. I think I need
Is
a
it
new
the room,
camera.
or you've been at the beach too much? Like what's
I don't know, man. I think hopefully I look toasty and not tomatoey. But I think I need a new camera.
You need a new computer.
Yeah, exactly. Should I retweet it, or should I just let it roll?
Yep. No, do it again. Send the tweet. We spent all that time workshopping your tweet. You may as well.
Yeah. I'm gonna delete this one.
Yep.
Not supposed to delete tweets, but I'm gonna do it.
Who says you're not supposed to delete tweets?
Good point. Okay. Dub Club. Cooking up.
If you guys were in here when the stream crashed earlier, you didn't see anything.
Yeah. No
Didn't
narcs. Oh, Ryan, you're on mute.
I was bound to happen. Let's just get it out of the way early. See, maybe if they were in here earlier, maybe that's all they heard too was mute. Maybe they didn't. I guess we don't know yet. We'll find out maybe one day.
I think they could hear us. They couldn't see us. I think it was just we were a white screen.
It was great discussion, great things for people to think about, which is
Yeah.
what I'm always trying to do. Is just get people to think about things, but because
That's all you can ask.
you don't want to just fire away. You want to just think, unless you're an overthinker, then at that point don't think more. Stop thinking. If you're an overthinker, we need to scale back a little bit sometimes.
Where do you lie on the thought matrix? If there's, it's not even a matrix. It's just a scalar.
Mm-hmm.
Left is no thought at all. Right is way too much thought.
Oh, way too much thought.
You're way too much thought guy.
I might be over the edge on the way too much thought, which it's funny. Like, I think people sometimes struggle with the idea. They say, like, if this person could just whatever, but they don't realize that, like, all of those personality traits, while there are certain things that are good and bad, kind of help create your actual strengths as well. So there are times in my life where the overthinking is a problem, but it has enabled me to create such valuable statistical models. So it's a double-edged sword, like everything, right? So it's less than ideal in day-to-day life. There was a time in my life where my work shirts, I had a Monday shirt and a Tuesday shirt and a Wednesday shirt and a Thursday shirt and a Friday shirt because I didn't want to overthink. I just didn't paralyzed, I just couldn't handle decisions and thought. But again, it's the same traits that helped lead me to build these models. So it's gotta take the good with the bad.
One of the benefits of starting a company is you, for one reason or another, end up talking to a lot of smart people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And one theme from smart people that are like accomplished that I have pattern matched in terms of how they help you work through decision-making processes is don't worry about your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Triple down on your strengths.
Yep.
If you think too much, figure out how thinking too much can
How that could be
become an advantage for you. My producer, social media legend, is creating Echo now. He's on the stream. He forgot his key card, like he always does. And then he said, Lou, you locked me out, I think, which is pretty
It was your fault, I guess.
exceptional victim shaming there. Do I still have an Echo? Yeah,
I think
do.
it's because him walking around.
This can't be changed while recording. I think I'm fine now.
I think it was him coming to you was probably the problem.
Get him out of here. All right, we got some
Well,
people streaming in the chat.
Eventually, we'll have some picks. I'm hoping it's not, you know, too much
We got some
longer for
absolutely
the eager viewer, you know.
Legendary guys in the chat. Win with Weiss, California Wager. A couple Dub Club legends in the chat. So, yeah, to your point, Ryan, how about I hype you up real quick and then we get
All
into
right.
the
Let's
slate.
do it.
It is my distinct pleasure to introduce, for your audio and viewing pleasure, one of the truly unique creators in our space, known belovedly as the Professor, Professor Sides. The Professor has been in the space for quite a long time, one of the most prodigious video content creators out there. Go subscribe to his YouTube page after you listen to this pod. Legitimate statistics professor, incredible analytical horsepower, covers pretty much every sport under the sun last I chatted with him, but a particular affinity for college football.
Mm-hmm.
Current resident of the Hoosier State, and with Nebraska, Indiana as my official Big Ten game of the week, we had to get him on the stream. Without further ado, Professor, please introduce yourself briefly to the listeners at home.
I'm glad to be here. So everyone, thanks for tuning in. I don't know. I'm terrible at marketing. I just do the math, is what I tell people. But I'm a former small school college baseball player, PhD in statistics, professor for 5 years. Spent 5 years in industry, working as a statistician, and eventually, at some point in life, came up with statistical models, not to predict what will happen. We don't know what will happen, but to assess the probabilities of things that will happen, which enables us to figure out what prices and numbers are worth betting. And it has led to some pretty good results last year in college football. We had a 9% ROI. So far this year for college football, also a 9% ROI. We did even better last year in the NFL. This year it's been not as good. But if you combine this year and last year, our NFL ROI, I think, is about double that. We're 3 years running now, positive ROI in baseball. And so it's not that I know what's going to happen. We lose a lot of picks. It's just that we know what prices, especially with money line type things, in order to bet, in order to win more when we win, than we lose when we lose. That's what I tell people all the time.
Well, I have good news for the listeners. I'm planning to win all my picks on this stream, at least.
I mean,
so.
that's the first goal, right? If we can do that, and then, you know, the backup plan is, well, okay, well, if nothing else, let's just try to win more, you know, than we lose.
Let's at least get some freaking value.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
well, let's start in your current home state, West Lafayette, Indiana. The Oregon Ducks, no rest for the wicked.
Mm.
After Dan Lanning's cunning strategy led to a victory and probably the game of the year in the Big Ten thus far. The Ducks head very far west for a meetup with the upstart Boilermakers, who gave Illinois all they could handle and more in a heartbreaking loss last week. I got this number at 27.5. It's a Friday night game. Ryan, are you touching anything, sides, totals? I never covered the total market or props. I'm not sure if that's something you cover as well.
We do. I'm on the under on this one. It was at 59. 59 is one of the key numbers in the upper 50s. 58's the other one. So we always tell people 58, 59. You're looking at. We're on the under. I think probably along the same line that some of our viewers may be thinking about, in that this is a tough spot for Oregon, traveling across the country, short week. Like, these games tend to be a little bit sleepy in these spots, and so all we need is a good quarter with not a lot happening. And obviously, I think people are overvaluing what happened with Purdue last week. I don't know what that was offensively. That was a bonkers game. That's not who they are in general. And I think this is more a little bit lower scoring than the experts. Our model pegs this at 54.5, and that's where I would put it. 55 is the most common outcome in college football, and that's where I would have said the total right at 55 and just dared people to go over or under. But the market being above two key numbers above that, I'm going to go under 59 on this one.
I'm on ESPN.com right now, and I'm seeing the total at 61.5. So does that make you squirrely, or you're just like, no, they got it wrong, they got it pile wrong. In?
Yeah. 61's kind of key. 62 would be another key number. Like it even more there.
By half a point.
Yeah, I mean, no, never by the half point. It's almost never good value. But if it does get to 62, even at something like minus 115, that's even better. But no, I've done research into this, and line moves are overvalued. Um, I'm not saying the market isn't overall smart, but in the individual thing, it's wrong like 49% of the time or something like that. So a lot of times the number moves the direction that my model is, but when it does it, I'm like, it is what it is. I still am standing with what we got. So yeah, even into the 60s, even better. I love it.
Ryan, from a narrative perspective, I agree with everything you're saying. I'm not touching this game because I hate being involved with that large of a spread. Just weird stuff happens in the fourth quarter of college football games. That being said, I do love fading teams going west to east, short week, coming off an emotionally exhilarating victory. So if you really got to scratch the itch, I would probably take the points with a home dog that seems to have figured a lot out last week. I love the play on the total. From Ryan's perspective, I don't play totals a ton. I'm more of a classic spread guy. But if I was going to take a side, I'd probably leading Purdue. But I've just seen too many backdoor covers with starters scoring on walk-ons that I'm not touching a number at 27.5.
It's not a crazy take. Some of those big numbers like that, from a spread standpoint. Thankfully, every other one that we've got, I think, is single digits. But some of those big numbers like that. And you talk about Oregon, I think it's not necessarily, I don't want to say it's a program-defining win, right? They've had bigger wins in their program, but this is such a unique situation. We don't see big-name programs like this change conferences. Texas is up against one here now with Georgia with the SEC, but like, when you change conferences and this is no offense to I'm a Big 12 guy. I grew up in Texas. I love the Big 12, and I've loved watching Pac-12 after dark. It's been a lot of fun. But you go up in class a little bit like that, and you get that big win. Like, again, I don't want to make it sound program defined. It's almost an insult to the history of Oregon, which has been really good for the last 20 years. But that was a huge win to get that win here in your first year in the conference, and that. You never know how that's going to lead into all the other the short
letdown,
week, the travel, and if that's going to lead to some just kind of lazy, 35-10 type win rather than them putting up the 60 that they could put up if they wanted to. But I don't really see why. I don't see that happening really.
The other thing that's making me want to bet on the Boilermakers is these, the Dan Lanning victory tour, talking about the 12 men on the field penalty that was crucial for the victory against the Buckeyes, where he's just smirking and clearly he's been, bathing in his own excellence for 4.5 days.
They're changing the rule because of this now. The rule interpretation, as of today, they were changing that so that they can't do that anymore. I can't believe it. It's crazy.
It's a total loophole. So good on him for being prepared. I think it's a good loophole to close up, and I like fading teams that are maybe basking in the victory glow a little too long.
Yep.
All right, let's stay in the Hoosier State. This is my Big Ten game of the week. It's big noon kickoff. Is Game Day or Fox going to Bloomington? I know Barstool's doing a show in Bloomington.
Fox might be. I think ESPN's in Austin for the Georgia-Texas game.
Yeah, SEC outfit over there at the Mickey Mouse.
They've given the Big Ten a lot of love too over the years.
This is a big game. This is the biggest game that's been in Bloomington in quite some time. Huskers are good. Hoosiers are good. I saw this number at 6.5. Total is 50.5. Pretty low number on the total side of things. What do you like? Tell us what the model likes, Professor.
My models have got this Indiana minus 10. And so
wow.
We laid earlier in the week, we laid 6. I'm still comfortable laying 6.5. I'd be comfortable laying 7. I wouldn't go above that. I think you're losing a lot of value there. But laying 6, we absolutely loved, and 6.5 is still fine too. I think Nebraska's good. I just really like this Indiana. We've been on them all season. They've got a great coach who brought in a great quarterback, and that's just a great combination. This Hoosiers team, I think, is for real. You can see on my shirt, my PhD finished up at Baylor, and so I watched a lot of Matt Rule football. I think he's still a year away. I don't think he has the offensive pieces. I think he's doing exactly what he did at Baylor, just more or less what he did at Temple, which is early on, grind games out, slow them down, play really good defense, try to get to 0-0 at the half, which he did one game, which was amazing for us because we had the under in that one as well. And then slowly as the offense builds up, I think you're starting to see that. They've obviously got a good quarterback, but I think people are a little bit thinking too much about a couple of their bigger wins that they've had and not necessarily looking at all of the data with that. That Nebraska offense still, I think, is not quite up to par. I think Indiana is a complete team and really good, so I'm on the Hoosiers -6.
How often are you so if you see something that different, where there's a 4-point swing between what your model's spitting out and where you can actually get action down, do you ever touch an alt line? I know you said you wouldn't play it over 7, but if there's like a huge variance and it's like I've got Hoosiers -13, will you do like Indiana -10 to get some juice, or you don't really touch it?
That is a great question, and I'm glad you brought that up because it's a really good point that a lot of times my model is going to spit out something that's really far away from the books, and that's okay from a mathematical standpoint. I'll see 4-point differences, 6-point differences, things like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that one's right or one's wrong. We have a saying in statistics, all models are wrong, some models are useful. And so I tend not to worry too much about that. I kind of have delineated into a cut point where it's like, as long as it's kind of over this and it's based off probability, which for football matters about key numbers. It's not quite the same for basketball. It's a little bit more straightforward. But the idea being, once it kind of reaches that threshold, I don't really worry about if the model's saying it's off by 4 points or 6 points. I kind of just treat it all the same and just say there's an edge here. I don't do the alt things personally, as we were talking about previously. I overthink things too much. And so having those options is bad for me personally. I always tell people part of successful sports gambling, right? Part of it's bankroll management, which is absolutely key. Part of it is just staying sane through all of this and figuring out what helps you sleep at night, what helps you get through the games without getting too upset, what helps you, which is about, partially how much you're wagering on, but partially just not kicking yourself, not saying, oh, I should have done that, should have done that, should have done that. So I like to have some rules set up. And so for me, it's just, I worry about money lines and spreads and kind of have a rule there, but the alt spreads, I know people do it and people use my model to help them with that. But personally, I think too much. I don't want to give myself that option. I just stick to laying the under the touchdown.
Trust the process. Absolutely love it. Well, congratulations to the model. They are on the same side as my brain.
I love it.
I use sneaky loaded, and I think they're a bit of a matchup problem for the Huskers. Huskers are a good football team. Offensive line is probably their weakest position group. They got punished by Illinois at home, which is a very good front four, and was getting home with 4 people. I think Indiana presents a similar problem where their front four are very good, both on the interior defensive line and on the edge. Curtis Rourke is a stud. Everybody's talking about Patty Mahomes Jr. over in Lincoln. Curtis Rourke's a stud. They got a playmaker on the outside. I forget his name, number 13. He's long, he's explosive, and very, very good player. And they got a slot guy who's very good, a couple backs that are good. Bloomington's going to be up for this game. I joked. It's a football school. But, I mean, I know they're sold out, and they never sell out that stadium. So,
given the basketball team, I don't think that's crazy to make that joke. Like, they might be a football school now at this point. I know they love their basketball, but right now the football team's got all the promise in the world.
All right, Ryan and I are on the Hoosiers. Alex, dogpile on the Huskers. I know you'll have fun with that.
Well, Professor, I mean, you said it. It's not good to get emotional when you're making your plays, but unfortunately, I don't have good control of my emotions. As an Iowa fan, I'm going to be hate watching this game, rooting against Nebraska. Indiana looks amazing. I don't think Nebraska can keep up offensively. I think Patty Mahomes Jr. is a bit of a fraud. Couldn't beat Illinois at home. Illinois is a good team, but I saw a lot in that game that I did not like, and I think it was pretty indicative of what that offense actually is. So I don't think they can score with IU. I think we're all getting on IU here and ride the hot hand. So I'm in.
And I want to add 3 things, Lewis, to what you said that the model backs up. Number 1, I've got Curtis Rourke as the 16th best quarterback in the country, whereas I've got Raiola number 55.
Wow.
Which goes to your point. I think you got the better quarterback for Indiana. You talked about the blocking. I've got the pass blocking unit for Nebraska at number 59 in the country. For Power 4 standards, that's not very good. But the run blocking, number 84. That's really bad for Power 5. And then the third thing you talked about, the skill position on the outside. I've got IU's wide receiver tight end group at number 9 in the country. They've got a lot of talent out there on the edge. So I was loving everything you said. I'm looking at my notes here. And again, these are notes that I give away for our honor roll people for every single game, all this stuff nice, tidied up. And I'm like, oh, check, check, check. It's like you're reading off my notes basically from what the model spits out with regards to how these teams how these teams actually are.
Haters, sorry, I know ball. Great plug, Professor Sides. $5 first month, new picks only product. Get a taste. He's got the honor roll product as well with all the analysis and the model outputs. But I know people that listen to the show tend to just like the plays themselves. This is a great onboarding product to get familiar with the beautiful mind of the professor. $5 first month, special in tandem with this stream. We'll go with in tandem.
Sure.
Alex has got the link floating around below.
It's in the replies right below the stream. I just retweeted it as well, so go tap in.
Shazam. All right, let's stay in the Midwest. I guess this is a true Big Ten battle. Wisconsin Badgers. Monster showing last week. I was on Rutgers. Great call, Lou. You buffoon. They mollywopped the Scarlet Knights last week and are now heading to Evanston, another team that beat up on an East Coast Big Ten team last week against the Terps. Northwestern's getting 7 points at home. Totals at 41.5 when I'm seeing on ESPN.com. Ryan, talk me through this one. Interesting matchup. Two teams that are kind of on the upswing after looking real bad at the beginning of the year. What do you like in this game?
We have no official pick on this right now. The model does have a couple of things it likes, but I'm not exactly sure. We haven't run to play this one yet. We're just kind of sitting there. When the total was sitting at 41 is kind of one of your key number really in the low 40s. The model would have said to go over. Model says 45.5. That 44, 45 is kind of the key numbers where it should sit. It's hard to get behind an over with these two teams. I'm not saying it's the right move, and sometimes the contrarian play is right, but I'm sitting here going like, I don't know. There's 50 games. We don't have to fire on all of them, so I'm kind of just sitting back on that one. Wisconsin, according to the model, should be favored by 5, so the model would say, take the 7 with Northwestern. Taking 7 with the home team is never a bad idea. I don't know. Again, I'm not running to do it. But the model has a couple of leans. Personally, I'm just sitting back. We had plays throughout the week, so maybe we'll have some done on this later. But for now, the model's leaning Northwestern and over. But I'm hesitant on both.
I love the model. The model loves me. Maybe one thing that the model didn't account for is 11 a.m. in Evanston is where dreams go to die. I know they're not playing at Ryan Field, so the home field's
Wrigley, right?
This one's not Wrigley. This is the last game on the lakefront venue.
On the literal freaking lake, which is probably why the total's so low, because if it gets windy,
I was there 2 weeks ago.
Crazy.
The field goal posts were literally shaking. It was hilarious, and it wasn't even that windy, so they could be in big time trouble.
And that's where we always tell people with totals on things like this, like wait till you get closer. Just wait, because like if the wind isn't that bad, that's very different than if the wind's bad. It's like you can't make this number low enough, and that's we won't really know that. And the direction matters, side to side matters a whole lot more than front to back. So it's a whole thing with that weird situation there.
100%. The reason why I say dreams go to die at Evanston at 11 o'clock, it's a tough place to play because it's such a sleepy environment. I think that's a little bit less of an impact because this is kind of cool. There's like the novelty factor because it's on the lake. You can see the skyline in the background. It's going to be all Wisconsin people in the stands. But speaking from experience, Stanford had the same advantage at college, where you got these teams like Wisconsin that are used to playing in front of 80,000 and it's jumping, and you take a bus. It's not like an overnight plane trip, which is tough from a road game perspective in some ways. And it's just hard to get up because it feels like you're playing a high school football game. 11 o'clock kick. Northwestern's looked a lot better the past 2 games, really. Indiana, they didn't cover the number, but they hung pretty tough at home. Beat the crap out of Maryland on the road. Quarterback's making better decisions. Defense is taking the ball away. I'm still not sold on Wisconsin. I don't know what the hell happened last week in Piscataway. Rutgers just forgot to show up to the football game. But to your point, I love getting 7 points at home. That's a critical number. I'm going to take them and hope the Badgers are sleepwalking in E-Town.
Yeah, that's not crazy. Like I said, it's never crazy in a conference game to take 7 with the home team.
And it's not like Wisconsin's a great football team. This is a very flawed team.
Right.
Alex, Big Ten West action. I need to get your take. Anything you like in this one?
I kind of like, I can't pull it up right now because it's an Illinois school, and when you're in Illinois, you can't bet on Illinois schools. So I'll have to go to my friends at Bovada eventually. They're always there for me. But I kind of like Wisconsin's team total, actually. I know it did feel like a bit of a fluke last week. I just like their physicality, and if I were to take a side, it would probably be Northwestern, but I do think Wisconsin's actually going to put up the points, but I don't love the whole total because I don't know if Northwestern's going to, so I'll ride the physicality of Wisconsin. I'm looking at team total if I take anything in this game.
Team total over?
Yep.
I would just say people just check the weather as it gets closer. That's going to be a big one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you, and the model's with you. As long as the weather stays not crazy, the question is just how crazy is the weather going to be, which is tough to say. I'm guessing the total's in the 23.5 range, if I had to guess.
Yeah, Bovada's being funky. I'm trying to pull it up right now. The weather looks great this weekend, though. 68 degrees, sunny, not too windy. So,
Big Ten fall.
Mm-hmm.
If it stays like that, not a lot of wind, sunny, 68. I mean, there could be some points scored in that game. The defenses are good. Don't get me wrong. I think it's just there could be some points scored in that game, and that people are thinking this might be like Iowa, Nebraska from last year, and it's like that's not these teams are not Iowa, Nebraska from last year in any way, shape, or form. Even though the defense.
No, Iowa and Wisconsin combined for 82 points last week.
Yeah.
Juggernauts.
Exactly.
Wisconsin's an air raid outfit now. Things are different in Madison. All right, before we get too far removed from dogpiling on Rutgers, let's talk about Rutgers and dogpile on them. Horrendous showing at home last week. There was so much hype and optimism a few short weeks ago in New Jersey at the State University of New Jersey, the birthplace of college football. You lose a game you should have won in Lincoln, and then you forget to show up when you're wearing the cool red coordinated uniforms against the Badgers. Now you welcome the downtrodden UCLA Bruins on a literal cross-country road trip from the flash and pizzazz of Hollywood to the gabagool of New Jersey. Rutgers is a 4.5-point favorite in this game. It's a very odd number to my brain. Tell us what the model says, Professor.
Yeah, it's always fun to watch line movements. I don't necessarily think that they're, again, I'm not buying into them too much as the end-all be-all that some people might, but it is fun to watch them and just try to see if there's any story that it's telling you. This opened at 6.5, then it got to 4.5, and now it's sitting there kind of in that dead man zone where it's like nobody really knows what to do with it. It's not heading towards 3, it's not heading towards 7. I'm all over Rutgers here. I love Rutgers. Model says 11.2.
Wow.
I'm just down on this UCLA team. I don't think they were very good. The model doesn't know things. Like, the model knows a lot. It's a player-based model, which really matters. As guys get injured, guys decide to randomly quit the season in redshirt, right? So the model having those guys out really helps and everything. But the model doesn't know things like Chip Kelly deciding to just up and quit kind of towards the end of the process and go be an offensive coordinator for a school in the same conference. Not obviously any disrespect to Ohio State, but that's kind of weird. I think the cupboard's pretty dry. I'm not saying that the coach there won't be a good one. I just don't think this is their year to really have any success. We faded UCLA pretty hard all season, and it's mostly worked out for us. I don't trust Rutgers, but I trust that UCLA at noon traveling across the country, I trust them that they're going to be pretty bad. And so I'm laying it with Rutgers. I'd lay it up to a touchdown easily, and you have no worries about that here at 4.5. I'm all over the Scarlet Knights.
So last week I came on this program and I said Purdue's an FCS football team this year, and UCLA's an FCS football team this year. And both those schools made me look like a fool. So I'm just not betting either of them. I can't. UCLA looked pretty good last week. I know the Gophers were coming off like a very. Yeah, it's a tough thing to do. Beat a ranked team at home, get on the road, win. That's tough, and they did their job, but they did not cover. UCLA looked way better than they've looked. I have seen gradual improvements from them. Their quarterback is back, and he looked pretty good. I just don't want to touch it. Rutgers is kind of banned for me because of the way they performed the last 2 weeks, and I bet on both times. UCLA, I cannot in good conscience bet on them, so this is one where I'll sit back and be a fan and not have any action.
Yeah,
Alex, you got
week,
anything? Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
Last week we had Minnesota as a lean on the money line, which worked out for us too. So there's sometimes in the model saying, don't lay the points, take the money line, whether it's plus or minus odds. Last week was a case where our fade of UCLA, again, I think we've done it like almost every week. Our fade of UCLA was just in the money line because it was thinking, half cross-country road trip in that spot. They can go in and get a win. Don't know if they can win by the 5 or whatever it was. Whereas this week, I think it's a little bit of the opposite with the other travel direction. I'm not going money line. I'm just laying the points on it because I think this is the week to be aggressive fading UCLA, whereas last week was the week to be a little more conservative in it.
Rutgers is also just a very infuriating team to watch play football and to bet on.
And I'm sure to play against as well.
The skill positions are zeros. Like, I watched the first half of the Wisconsin game. I've never seen so many drops. The quarterback is not very good, but when he does put the ball on target, these guys had like 6 drops in the first half. It's like, why am I betting on this team? That's the kind of team, to your point earlier, Ryan, about knowing how to make sports betting fun and enjoyable. Know which teams you don't like betting on. And I've gone to the well with the guys from Jersey one too many times.
Or alternatively, don't put that game on your TV. Just don't watch it, pretend it doesn't exist, and then find out, 3 hours later or with the score updates. But just if it's one of those teams like that, just don't watch them if you bet on them because it's no fun.
The Billy Bean approach. I'll be on the gym. I'll be on the treadmill.
Yeah,
checking the score app.
Hey, we always say you don't got to watch them to make the monies. So
it's true. All right, let's go to Champaign-Urbana. This is the CBS game of the week. Another school that's hosting its biggest game in recent memory. Michigan's coming off a bye and a tough loss in Seattle. Illinois barely escaped last week. They tried to blow that game against Purdue. They're getting 3 points at home. Professor, talk to us. What do we got?
So this is one that the numbers moved enough to take me off of it because this was 1.5 earlier in the week. And again, what I provide for everybody is we provide projections on Sunday coming out so people can get an early look at this. We've got this more Michigan 4.5. So it's kind of a Michigan or pass type thing, but laying 3 is a whole different world than laying 1.5 or even more on the money line. You could have gotten, I think it might've been at FanDuel minus 114 on Michigan. So it's basically like a pick'em is a whole different world than laying minus 160. There's no way I'm laying minus 160 with Michigan on the road with the quarterback who struggles to throw the football forward. Like Michigan's obviously still got a good defense. I don't know what to make of Illinois. I'm passing on this because of the movement out to 3. I think that was the right move in this case. Total wise, it's gone up a little bit. We've got it more in the 48 range. It started at 42.5 up to 44. 44 is your key number in the mid 40s, maybe even 45 a little bit. So it's kind of overpass. But again, I don't know. Like, what is up with Illinois? I've seen them play some higher scoring games, some lower scoring games. Michigan definitely wants to play lower scoring. I don't know. It's over or pass. But at this point, I'm kind of staring at it going, maybe if it goes over 44 into the 45s, I'll say I should have taken the over, but it's better to regret not making a bet and not losing any money than to make one that you regret and lose. So that's kind of my stance on it for now.
Yeah, I hear you. I think I've watched a lot of Illinois play this year for one reason or another. I just get good vibes from them. It's a very experienced senior team. Even when they were collapsing at Purdue, I felt like they were going to win.
That 2-point conversion was something. I have to. That was just the most interesting 2-point conversion I've ever seen.
When they converted, or when they sacked the guy for minus 75 yards.
The latter. When they won the game on that sack.
What a call to go for 2, and then that's what you put on tape.
I feel like you had to have some better play up your sleeve.
Illinois, they're gamers, And I like betting gamers when they're getting points at home, period. Michigan is now on their third starting quarterback of the season. This guy's like 40. He's like a 24th year senior. So good luck to him. I respect the grind and the hustle. But if he was going to be a great quarterback, I think he would have figured it out in year 1 through 6 and not saved his best act for year 7. So I think, Illinois, it's a good team. It's a balanced team. I don't know what happened in the second half last week. I'm choosing to put the wool over my eyes and pretend like I didn't see that. Michigan is one of those teams where always gets overbet because of the brand name. So I think generally you can
last year was obviously a great year to back them. They finally had an offense that was competent, and obviously to go with a really good defense.
So I'm going with the Illini in this one. I like home dogs. I like good home dogs. Sheer, I can tell you got something turning in that big brain of yours.
I mean, I love Brett Bielema, former Hawkeye. He knows how to win a dogfight. I love Illinois, Lou. I'm with you. I also kind of like the under. I think you're completely right, Professor. Michigan wants to play their game. I think this is going to be close. I'd rather take Illinois in that situation at home, and I think Brett Bielema knows how to win ugly games, as we saw last week. So I will take Illinois 3.5.
It feels like Illinois is the most confusing 5-1 team that I've seen this season. I'm like, how are they 5-1? They don't feel that good, but like they're winning. So yeah, it's one of those where it's like I'm looking at the plus 140 being like, I don't know, that's not the stupidest thing. If that keeps rising, if that keeps getting higher and higher, where you're just kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen. I would tell people all the time, if you look at a game and you say, I literally don't know, I think it's 50-50, and you can get big plus odds, like it's worth a half unit or something just to be like, if I could walk up to the roulette table and get, plus odds on red or black, I'd do it every day of the week, right? Twice on Sundays. But you don't usually get that opportunity, unfortunately, when you go to a casino.
Yeah, and when you're playing a name brand blue blood like Michigan, and you're not like Illinois, that's where I think you see these opportunities come into play, where you get a team that's getting way more volume just because it's Michigan's playing Illinois, Michigan, but that's not.
Or even more so the same group of 5 versus power 5, same sort of thing, where you end up with sometimes that dynamic of there might be a little bit of value on this team. People don't realize that they're good because they're just thinking about the name on the front of the jersey, the logo on the helmet, rather than who's actually on the team playing.
North Dakota State's playing Kansas? Like, oh,
yeah. Exactly.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, let's do another one of these West Coast, East Coast matchups where we're hazing the new members of the Big Ten. The men of Troy, brutal loss last week. That was a very good football game. Got lost in the shuffle because the nightcap was so outstanding. But USC
kind of forgot about it after the night game.
That went to overtime, back and forth, a lot of offense, a lot of defense. USC just continues to lose games in agonizing fashion. This feels like a good or a get-right spot, but at the same time, you're flying across the entire United States of America, and you're laying a full possession. I saw this at 7 points. That's what's on my sheet. I think it's been pretty steady around there. Totals at 56.5, or by Big Ten standards, that's like a shootout. So what do you think, Professor? Is the model like anything in this one?
We're going over on this one. Going over under. Under. We're going under 56.5. Model says 51.5. And we talk all the time about the model thinking that the key numbers that this should matter around is 51, 52. Whereas the key number that the books are setting it at is between the 55, 58, 59 mark. So we get winners on 51, 52, 55, all those in the upper 40s. And so we're going to go under. Obviously, Southern Cal can score, but their defense is much improved. And I think people maybe quite aren't realizing that yet. I know what happened last week. I don't necessarily think that's I think Penn State's offense is better. They're improved. I think the new offensive coordinator made all the difference in the world. And you've seen that because the offensive coordinators coming from Kansas, and you've seen what their offense has done. With their offense, Kansas offense went from great to good, and I think Penn State's offense went from they've got some talent, but they can't actually score against a competent defense to they actually can put up some points against real defenses. The offensive coordinator mattered a lot. So I think that was a lot about that. I don't trust Maryland's offense to actually do that against USC. You talk about traveling across the country after a game like that, could be a little bit of a tough spot for them to score. So we're going to go under 56.5.
Can we talk just for half a second? Because Penn State's not playing this week, so we won't have an occasion to do so. This tight end guy, Tyler Warren, on Penn
Oh,
State,
that was insane.
number 44. He's like the greatest football player of all time. Where have they been hiding this guy?
That's the sort of stat that you get playing NCAA college football or Madden, where you're just like, I'm just going to see how many catches. And sometimes, like, if you played at the right difficulty level, and I'm not saying you went and put it on like JV or rookie or level, whatever, but like if you played at a reasonable difficulty level and you were like, how many catches can my tight end get? The CPU would figure it out, and you wouldn't be able to do that. Like, it would be impossible to do what he did on a friggin' video game. Like, that's insane.
The other thing that I love about the way he plays, he looks like a slob. Like, he does not look athletic. He's one of those, what I would say, like a wet noodle athlete, where he always looks like he's tired, and like it's kind of a chore for him to be out there running routes, and it's you can't defend him, and you got all these freakazoids on Southern Cal who he's just running circles around. So I'm excited to watch him play meaningful football games coming down the stretch. USC is the way you described on Illinois. Like, this is a 5-1 team that I don't really understand how they're 5-1. USC is a 3-3 football team where I'm like, man, these guys look pretty good. They do a lot of things well. They got a great tailback. They got a very good quarterback.
Very good quarterback, yep.
Very good skill position guys. Again, a team that's a little they're weaker where it matters most, which is the offensive line in college football. But this is not the, fairy dust USC defenses of years past where you can just lean on them. They don't match up well with the Iowas of the world that are going to ground and pound. You saw what happened at Michigan, Minnesota. But they're not like, it's not like you can just make them tap out. Those were competitive games. So with that being said, I think I'll lay the points. I think they're going to have a bounce back week. I like the quarterback. Seems like a high character guy. I don't think Cliff Kingsbury is going to be 3-4 in his first season in the Big Ten. And I don't think this is going to be a close football game. The other dynamic here is I think Maryland's very bad. They looked completely lost last night. That football program has lost all its juju. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they don't have Tua's brother there for the 14th year in a row. But their quarterback looked bad. They were coughing the ball up everywhere against Northwestern. I don't see them like keeping this particularly close. This is a get-right game for the Trojans. If they don't like have an exclamation point against a down Terps team, all of a sudden Cliff Kingsbury's seat is going to be feeling awful warm. And I don't anticipate that being the case. So expect this one to be not close.
Model likes laying the points too, and I'll just point out that my model has USC's defense at number 22 in the country, which is a far cry from last year when they were one of the only Power 5 last year, I guess, schools that were in the hundreds with how bad they were last year. Now that they finally got a defensive coordinator who actually knows what he's doing.
I mean, the record looks bad, but I would not be surprised at all if USC ends the season 9-3 and sends Notre Dame away from the playoff picture in their, post Thanksgiving. Clip it now, Collins, because that one's coming back to life in late November. It's a good football team. They've had a very tough schedule, a lot of East-West,
Really tough.
a lot of matchups that are like kind of grueling for them.
Can you imagine if they'd lost that LSU game?
They'd be talking about running Kingsbury out of town.
Yeah, well, and Riley, both the whole duo. You're just getting rid of everybody.
Yeah, why do I keep calling him Cliff Kingsbury?
Well,
he's
Kingsbury's
in Commanders. He's the Commanders OC.
Okay. I was like, I remember he went around somewhere. I think as people keep comparing Riley to Kingsbury because they're like he's the next one who has a great quarterback who can't do anything with him. Kingsbury with Mahomes and Lincoln Riley with Caleb Williams. So I think there are a lot of comparisons about these genius offensive minds that can't do anything. But the schedule is relatively favorable for USC when you look at it. That Notre Dame game is at home. They get Nebraska at home. They get Rutgers at home on a cross-country spot, which Rutgers, I think, like you said, I think that's a bad spot for them with regards to the matchup style. But them traveling across the country, maybe they got a better chance at it than otherwise. They go to Washington, who Washington's really down, and then UCLA. So, I mean, they have a very favorable schedule closing out the season. They could run the table. I wouldn't say it's 90% likely, but it's not completely crazy to envision that scenario given the way it breaks out.
Just talking about Rutgers, because I love talking about Rutgers on this program. That game kicks off at 11 p.m. Eastern on a Friday night, which is like laugh out loud funny. I don't know who decided that was a good idea. Like, even if you're on the West Coast, like, who wants to go to an 8 o'clock kick? Those people are usually asleep at 8 o'clock because of the time zonage. So yeah, that we'll cover that in a few weeks. But long story short, lay the points. The Terps are bad. The Trojans are going to be resurgent towards the end of the season here. Sure, I see you nodding along. I want to hear from you. Are you laying the points? Are you touching anything else?
I'm all over USC. I think it's a matchup problem. I do not think they have the athletes on really any position to match up with USC. Maryland is just bad. I think they're going to create so much separation. It's going to get out of hand quickly, but I kind of like the under, which I know those are conflicting thoughts, but I love USC here. I think it's by like 3 or 4 scores. I just think they can't even match up at all.
I'm not sure it's conflicting. I think people kind of assume with USC that, like, if they win, the game's going to go over. But again, I think this is a little bit of a different USC team. I've got their defense just as good as their offense. Maryland, I've got their defense better than their offense. And this Maryland team, like I said, is not good. I've got them 3rd worst in the Big Ten, not very far ahead of UCLA. And so I can see a situation where this USC defense, especially after last week, takes a little bit of pride and really shuts them down. And this game could easily land like 45-10. Or something like that, where it stays under the 56.5 and they easily cover, which would be the 2 things that we're talking about liking and the 2 things the model likes as well.
I think, okay, 2 points I want to hit because the chat's popping off with my spicy USC 9-3 take. I hope I don't live to regret that. As I look at their schedule, I think their toughest remaining game is at Washington. Husky Stadium is a very tough place to play. There's a ton of history, these 2 teams. I am so short on Notre Dame. I think that is a fraudulent football program that has had the biggest cupcake schedule in the history of Power 4 football. I know they've got the undefeated service academies coming to South Bend, so all the domers around.
That should be a lot of fun. We've been high on Navy and Army. We've been talking. I think we were one of the first ones talking about Navy Army maybe playing back-to-back weeks, and that it's a realistic scenario because those offenses are legit good. It's hilarious how bad Air Force offense is, especially after Air Force being so good in the previous years ago. But those will be tough games with service academies.
Bryson Daly is the man. Bryson Daly is the man. He's him.
Yeah, Navy's good, Army's better. It's insane how good those
Notre Dame may be a 3-loss team when they head to California. Who knows? Service academies are mighty good this year. I forgot what my second point was, so we're just going to go straight into the reason why Alex graced us with his presence, I'm sure. The Hawkeyes, Saturday night NBC, old school Big Ten matchup. I feel like these teams always play good games. Iowa and Michigan State, they've played a lot of games against each other. A lot of history. Iowa coming off a resounding victory at home against the overmatched Huskies, who could not stop Caleb Johnson. Michigan State coming off a bye and one of the most heroic covers of the season. But they've been kind of directionless so far in 2024 under the Jonathan Smith era. I saw this one at 6.5. Michigan State getting the points at home. I'm now seeing it 5.5 on ESPN.com. Very low total, 40.5. Iowa's an over machine this year. A lot to chew on. What's the model spitting out, Professor?
I just, it's crazy when you actually get an offensive coordinator who knows what he's doing. You can score points. I mean, this is what we've always wanted from Iowa, was a competent offense, because we've always known their defense is good. How many years have we said, my God, if their offense could actually do anything, how good would this team be? I'm laying it with Iowa. I love this one. Iowa, even before they got an offense, was a team that we backed a lot last year, and people were confused as to why we did, but we backed them on the money line. We'd lay minus 150, we'd take plus 150. It didn't really matter. We were kind of just like, they're going to win all these games, and then in the big spot at the end of the season, they covered that big number as well. That's obviously not a money line spot there. But they're very consistent to me in that they struggle with the top teams. Like, they're going to struggle with Ohio State. Sure, this isn't Ohio State, but they take care of business.
Trigger warning, Alex. Teams.
Sorry, yeah. But they take care of business against all those other teams that are weaker than them. Like, we've seen it time and time again. That doesn't mean they'll win this one by 6, right? Like I always say, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but more times than not, Iowa takes care of business against weaker teams. Iowa's the better team, so I'm on Iowa. It's really that simple.
I'm actually going to pass the mic to Alex next because I want to have the final word on this game, given where I'm going to go.
Yeah, I already know what you're on, Lou. I saw it on the sheet. But honestly, like, I don't hate it. I think this is going to be a tough environment for Iowa to go into. I think it'll be rocking. But with that being said, I think I just have to jump on the over. I think Iowa might go undefeated on overs. I think everybody's looking at the 40 and a half, and they're saying, oh, of course, it's Iowa. Like, it's just another one of those, let me blindly bet Michigan because they're playing Illinois. It's another one of those just automatic responses for people to look at the under. I'll be taking the over. I'm a little bit scared to take the points. Obviously, I will take it as an emotional bettor, as an Iowa fan. I will have to take it. I'll probably parlay it with Caleb Johnson anytime touchdown if I can get it, as I've done all season. But yeah, I don't really know what to think of this game. I don't know what to think of Michigan State. You said it earlier. They're kind of like they don't have an identity. I have no clue what to think about them. I think Iowa's a much better team. I don't think they can match up with us. And I've loved, especially the last Ohio State exception, 3 weeks, what Tim Lester has been drawing up. It's looked really good, and we're getting a lot of different wide receivers involved. So I love the trajectory of Iowa's offense. So I'm taking the over.
Model likes the over as well, says that it should be around 44, 43 and a half. 44 again is your key number there in the mid 40s. It doesn't, it liked it at 41. 41 is your key number in the low 40s. So if you're getting over 40, 40 and a half, it's hard to pass that up. It's such a low number. It doesn't take that much. And I was always good for random special teams or defensive touchdown out of nowhere, extra safety or something, just 2 free points, just because that's just the stuff that Iowa seems to do.
I get a little flutter in my heart when you say the model likes it too, Professor. That's like a real gift you have. It's like the girl you had a crush on in grammar school saying hi to you in the hallway. It's like totally magical.
How old are you? Grammar school.
Old soul. Old soul.
Okay, I'm going to be provocative on this one, as I'm sure you could tell by my lead-in. Professor, you said Iowa is a team that struggles with the top of the line programs, but really holds their own against kind of the mid-tier, upper mid-tier outfits. Michigan State, 3 losses on the year, at Oregon, at home against the loaded Buckeyes team, very close loss on the road to Boston College when they had Castellanos running around back there. And then they beat a Maryland team that's a middle-tier team. They took care of business against bad teams at home as well. This is a game that I find gross to bet on. But if I'm a home dog, mid-tier on mid-tier, I'm taking 6.5. I'm pinching my nose. Maybe I'm pulling a little bandana so I can just barely see it. But I'm going to that Bet Rivers account, and I'm putting a signature LewsB1GWinners $10 unit on the Spartans. Jonathan Smith is a very good football coach.
Yep. 100%.
This is a big turnaround in East Lansing. I love betting well-coached teams coming off of bye weeks. I love betting home dogs when they're not like grossly overmatched, i.e. it's a single-digit spread. My model's saying take the Spartans. I think it's going to be close in the fourth quarter. Alex is spot on. East Lansing is a tough place to play. It's been a while since they've been good, but
especially
they got 80,000 seats, and they fill them up even when they're bad, especially at night. So I think this is going to be a competitive football game. This is one of those where if it's a blowout, I'm going to look like an idiot on Monday, but it feels like the right play here on Wednesday afternoon.
So this is one thing, too, I always tell people, like, I always tell people, like, you can't disagree with me is on certain math principles, but where you can disagree on is where the model puts certain teams. And that's okay. We all have, as I said, all models are wrong. We all have our different perspectives on it. Where the model would disagree with you on that is it says that Iowa is number 21 in the country and Michigan State's number 72. So it would not say mid-tier. It would say there's a very big difference. But if you think that, I always tell people, like, you are free to disagree. And if you think they're closer than that, I think your logic makes absolute sense. So I always tell people, listen to that, see these things, see all the rankings, and you see that and you say, I actually don't think that. I kind of disagree with that. That can lead you to a different play that might make a lot more sense, or could lead you to just not play it when we play it, or play it when we don't, or something like that. But I've got Michigan State as the fourth worst team in the conference, only better than Maryland, UCLA, and Purdue. If that's wrong, and I think that Michigan State is on the up. I absolutely agree with you about Jonathan Smith. What he did at Oregon State was absolutely incredible. I think they're on the way up. Model doesn't think they're there yet. If they're ahead of schedule, if Iowa maybe isn't as good as number 21 in the country, these teams are closer. I'm absolutely with you. The model would say there's a big enough gap between these teams to lay it. But those are kind of your two perspectives on that. And whichever one, I always tell people, hey, whichever one viewer you align more with, that kind of tells you how you might want to play it. Alex, I was going to ask if you've been doing this all season, the anytime touchdown bet. I don't really mess with stuff like that. I'm wondering if Iowa money line and that anytime touchdown bet, would that get you maybe around even money? Because I would feel much more comfortable with Iowa just getting out of Dodge with the win. I just don't want to lay minus 220 on anything. That's just you can, and there's a time when that's smart. But in a football game, it's really just tough for me to get to that number. I don't mind laying minus 150 if it calls for it, maybe minus 170. But that'd be kind of my thought, is if would that put it around even money potentially? You think?
Yeah. You'd be plus money on some books. I've been doing it all year. I've been doing Iowa over, Iowa money line, Caleb Johnson touchdown, which I've gotten a lot of hate for, and it's actually probably been my best, I don't know, system, whatever you want to call it. Definitely a homer play every week, but I still like it. And yeah, if you just take any time and money line, you'll be right around plus money. So,
and that I think makes a lot of sense there, because my fear, if this game is high scoring, and that's where we talk about parlays, and I don't want to go too off the rails here, but these are good educational topics to talk about with these same game parlays. Like, so many of them, I tell people, are not good investments. There's a lot of math involved, and like you should just stay away from them like so many times. But what we have what we call correlated parlays with correlated outcomes. If there's a higher correlation that you think of than the books, you can get a little bit of an edge there. You just have to be really careful, because they add enough juice that you got to have a big enough edge. But I do think if this game is high scoring, Iowa's got a really good chance to cover. So if I'm going over, I'm laying it with Iowa, because I think this game turns into 35-17. If it stays low scoring, which is possible because it is still Iowa, they have a top 10 defense. Michigan State's defense is better than their offense. Jonathan Smith has to know with Iowa scoring, he's got to keep it low scoring. If it stays low scoring, I'm worried this game is like 17-13 or something like that. And so I think that Iowa money line with that anytime touchdown, if that's been working, I think makes a lot of sense. And if you want to get really aggressive and you think it's high scoring, that's where I'm a little bit less worried about the money line and thinking they can cover the big number.
I was pointing at you, Professor, because you stole my line.
Oh, sorry.
I don't see a world in which Iowa wins a football game in 2024, barring injuries, of course, which we don't want to happen ever, and Caleb Johnson doesn't score a touchdown. Like, everything runs through Caleb Johnson.
There you go.
So maybe you
I
dial
might
back.
myself then. I might money line and do that. I do like 2 same game parlays a year.
We're feeling it.
Let this be one. Let this be one.
It's LewsB1GWinners. It's Wednesday. It's like let's have something to look forward to, gang.
Yeah.
All right, we've worked through a full Big Ten slate. If you haven't been impressed by the professor and the model, I don't think you know much about sports and sports betting. The guy is as sharp as they come. $5 first month. Picks only. Link is in the comments. Link's in the reply. Chat's been bumping for this stream. I'll give you guys a 30-second ask whatever you want to ask when we got the professor on.
But see, I've got my model up right now. People can ask about any single game, and I'll tell you.
Is the baseball model up? I'm curious. You got anything you like? MLB? We're getting close to the end of this year here.
It likes the Mets tonight. That game's
I'm on the Mets.
First pitch is in about 50 minutes. We've been really down on Walker Buehler. I love Walker Buehler. He's on my dynasty baseball team, but he has not been the same pitcher this year since coming back. Severino's been really good. I think the Mets should be bigger favorites than they are. So we're on the Mets here in game 3. I have not plugged in the odds for tomorrow. I have the projections for the rest of the series, got series probabilities and prices and all sorts of goodies, but I haven't plugged in the odds to see where there might be value yet for anything tomorrow.
Mets are even money. That game's at home, right? That's it.
Mm-hmm. I think they should be minus 120, 130, something like that. I think they should be reasonable favorites there. Their offense is good, and I think they've got a big edge at starting pitcher here.
Baseball, when you can get even money at home, it kind of just feels good if they're,
if you have a real
playoff
team.
baseball. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
playoff baseball.
Yeah.
All right, we got
with some teams.
We got great dude. This is Jeremy. He's a Dub Club legend, massive winner on our success team. He wants to know if the model likes the Hoosiers. He's trying to get that way back from the crush in the hallway.
Yeah. Model loves the Hoosiers.
Over?
Got them.
Team total
Hoosiers,
points.
Team total points.
Did you break it down like that?
I do have a point projection here. Model projects them.
Please hold.
About 30 points. So depends on what the number is. If it's 26.5, I would say over for sure.
Alex, can we?
If it's 27.5, I'd still go over. 28.5, I'd probably pass at 28.5 personally.
Alex, let's get some sponsored posts. Jeremy, I don't know where you'd be placing this, but hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully that gave you a little dopamine, a little flutter in your gut. Parlay Pro wants to know how we feel about the Utah Hockey Club tonight. Professor, do you cover hockey, or is that too far afield? Stay away from the ice.
I built up a hockey model last year. I've not gotten it up and running yet this year. My personal life has been very crazy the last 12 months, and so it hasn't gotten up running yet, but it's coming soon. So I do not have any hockey thoughts at the moment, but coming soon we'll be getting back with the hockey model that I built last year. Another player-based model, which is not the quickest thing to build. I feel like people can probably imagine that.
Yeah, no kidding. Chat, anything on the Utah Hockey Club game? We need to help our guy, Parlay Pro. And Parlay Pro, you got a free parlay tonight. You got Caleb Johnson anytime touchdown. You got Iowa money line, and if you're feeling spicy, throw that dangerous third leg on there with the over.
And if you're feeling spicy with the over, might as well just lay the points with it too. Just go super spicy.
Super duper spicy.
If you're going,
bring some ranch with it.
Indiana team total, by the way, 28.5. Out on FanDuel. No free ads.
No free ads.
I think that's priced right. If I had to play it, I'd go over. But I'd really want 27.5 just because that Matt Rule defense is good. I think the biggest problem is that offense. I just don't think Nebraska's going to score much. And that's why I think Indiana might win big. So I think Nebraska's not going to score. Will Indiana score 27, 28, 31? I don't know.
Well, Jeremy, that's a great ad. You should always shop your odds. Always go get better odds. So don't trust FanDuel.
Yep. Yeah, if you find a 27.5, fire away, in my opinion.
Parlay Pro, thank you for the love on the lives. We'll be back next Wednesday talking Big Ten football. Always fun. Professor, you crushed it. This guy's a YouTube legend, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, we do an hour college football show every week.
I will put the link for that underneath the tweet as well. Yeah. I will also link out your show underneath there.
More free picks.
Puff out your chest, Professor. Get a little ad read here in the end of a great stream.
I'm terrible on the marketing stuff, but I just we got a lot of good things happening here. We got a lot of money that's been made, which has been great, and we try to give out a bunch of free stuff. But I always tell people, like, this is my life's work basically, and it turned from a side project into what I do more than 40 hours a week. So I always tell people, hey, I'm hopefully if I'm making you money. If I am, then come hop on board and make even more money. And if I'm not, then don't hop on board. I don't want, if it ain't working for you, then I don't deserve your money. But if I do, then I'd love to have you on our site. We have a great Discord chat with a ton of great people over there. A lot of notes, a lot of projections, and again, a 9% ROI last year in college football, 9% this year so far. So hopefully we can keep that rolling.
That's a man that's got confidence because he's selling a pretty cool product. So check it out. $5 first month. Come on, that's 2 bus passes. What are we doing? You could barely get to Wrigley Field and back for that kind of value, or you could beat up your bookmaker. It seems like an obvious choice. All right, thanks, Chad, for following along. This was a blast. See you next week.
Great job. Killed it, dude. I also just posted your YouTube link. Quoted our original tweet with it. That was awesome.